Imagine, if you will, a single point of connection that puts at your fingertips all of the things that we do in our daily lives with ease of access and convenience. Whether in your personal life, for work, travel, and entertainment with family, friends, and in your work life. The new OneConnect app is all you need to make your life more manageable and efficient in maximizing the best use of your time. The OneConnect app is your new connection in a world of busy people with lots to do and not enough time to get things done. OneConnect app was created with you in mind and is all you need. Download OneConnect app now. Also visit us at www.oneconnectapp.com.
Good afternoon and welcome to another week of The Voice of the Caribbean. Today we have a special guest. We're going to be having a real conversation as to the Caribbean issues and focusing on Jamaica this week as well. I am so honored to invite and to welcome one of our region's most distinguished and awarded journalists, a dear friend, Lester Hines. Welcome to The Voice of the Caribbean, Lester.
Thank you, Karen, and thanks for having me, and thanks to your listeners for tuning in.
We appreciate you. Lester, today we're going to have a very informal conversation. Today we want to focus on not just your career, highlighting our Caribbean leaders in different capacities. However, here on the Voice of the Caribbean, we also want to be talking about the upcoming issues, areas of interest, and you have a unique ability because you not only come with the recognition of journalism, but you have over the decades been inclined, in tune, and been literally the voice reporting on all things diaspora. Recently in the news, we had stories covering, what's going on in the Caribbean basin, the third border, things happening in Barbados, Jamaica, the Caribbean, but more importantly, our Jamaican people dealing in the United States with issues that are concerning. Before we go any further, Lester, let me just tell folks who we're interviewing today. Lester Hines, for almost 50 years, I want to push it on you, Lester, no, by not telling the age, but it is true, that you have been a journalist, having graced and served in our capacity of covering former Prime Ministers Michael Manley, former Prime Minister, the late Edward Seaga. You worked with World Radio Jamaica. You've worked with Alcan. You've worked in the industries of the New York Press to cover the United Nations, if I can recall. And at one point, you were even here at our Consul General in New York. So you've basically covered most of our diaspora work, and you've been respected, award-winning across the globe, particularly here in the state of Florida within the last decade. Lester, we thank you for your service, your dedication, and your impartial coverage of bipartisan politics. I am honored to know you as a friend as well, and for your openness of just talking what is real and true. Lester, what's going on today? Tell us what's new and what you're covering.
Well, there are lots of things that are happening within the community, not only in New York and elsewhere, but we one of the things that we need to be mindful of is the fact that we don't have. Okay, let me go back. As of the 1st of March, and this is a concern to our community. If you're a green card holder in the United States and you have started a business and you are looking to access federal funds for that business, as of March 1, you are no longer able to access funding through the Small Business Association. They've changed the rules, which says that as a green card holder, no, your company would not be able to be provided with funding for that business if you're starting up that business. it goes further in that if you have you're in a business with a citizen and you're a green card holder, because you're part of the ownership of that business, you the business will not be able to access SBA loans also. While it is true that a lot of Caribbean people, Jamaicans and other Caribbeans, do not depend a lot on SBA funding for their startup business, there are Caribbean nationals who do go to the SBA for funding. And this could have a material impact on our community because small business is a generator of employment. It's a backbone of the economy.
Mhm.
And so if you're cutting off that that level of small business in terms of because the person is not a citizen, then you're in effect affecting employment growth and also the creation of wealth. So I think our community needs to be aware
Mhm.
that this is going to be happening as of March 1.
Mhm.
So they need to make the necessary adjustment as to whether or not they will go to SBA or find other funding sources.
Yeah, that's interesting. You mentioned that, highlighting, because unknown to many, the Small Business Bureau has been around for a long time, particularly supporting even during hurricane and other crises. Post COVID, the funding was there for re-energizing, regenerating businesses, and we're wondering now. It is being said that the eligibility of naturalization is based on federal dependency, right? That this is for one of the reasons why they've ceased to advance any applications for for any kind of person wanting to bring their family in, who they believe would not meet the economic threshold of independence. Lester, that is something nobody has spoken about because I don't think it's in the pipeline of anybody's knowledge. But let it be also known that, as I said, the SBA has literally been not only the source for funding small businesses, loans, disasters, but it's been kind of the bedrock of a lot of new businesses, not just not just for immigrants. A lot of folks are going to be, naturalization too might become a qualification too, as far as that goes. So that's one issue, Lester. What else is happening within our diaspora? I saw a story you did this morning where you were highlighting that the new representation of selecting our diaspora leaders had a low voter participation. When is
Okay.
the date for voting?
All right. Every 3 years, the Global Jamaica Diaspora Council holds an election. Well, I don't know why they call it an election because actually you go out and vote for the people, but the ministry in Jamaica selects the individuals.
Interesting.
So every 3 years, you have to vote for people to this council. There are two councils. There's a Global Jamaica Diaspora Council, and then you have the Global Jamaica Diaspora Youth Council. There are 7 leaders from each council spread out across the diaspora, which is US, Canada, UK. And these 7 are elected by the people. There's a registration period where you have to register to be able to vote in the election.
Sure.
And what we found this year were that a lot of people were somewhat reticent to register because of the information they needed to provide to register.
Okay.
And they felt that they were not comfortable with the platform on which they had to provide this what they consider to be sensitive information.
Okay.
And in this day and age, when there's so much scamming and all the rest going on, people just weren't happy providing the information. So what you had is that between the US, Canada, and UK, you had only 1,767 people
Wow.
who registered to vote. And the voting goes on until the 20th of this month.
Okay.
So that's a number. Now, 3 years ago, you had over 3,000 people registered to vote. It's not just about the information that you have to provide for it, because there are other people who feel that the council is not relevant,
Okay.
and so they just don't see why they should participate in it,
Okay.
and they keep questioning as to what has the council done.
I see.
How has it made life better for people who want to do investment in Jamaica?
Let me for a minute on that, because was there, I mean, we've known of a few, for example, Wayne Golding, our brother Cunningham, Peter Bailey's there. Is there, and Sister Karen Dunkley up in Northeast, is there a criteria? Because maybe the definition of what the role is has not been fully expressed. What you just mentioned, that there is a role to be played of introduction to industries, economics, you name it. What was the role? Is it just, what was the position?
The role of the council actually is to be an advisory body to the minister.
Okay.
The ministry and the government, right? The government through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So basically, that's what the role of the council is, an advisory thing. It is supposed to bring to the attention of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and hence the government issues that may impact Jamaicans in the diaspora. The council itself is not able to raise funds. They are not. They are held to certain criteria. So the fact is that, and the other thing is, if you become a member of the council, for instance, in the Northeast, it's 13 different states that make up the Northeast region. And as a council member, you have to travel to these 13 states,
right,
to meet with the community leaders and what have you and all of that, as well as to attend functions. And all of this comes out of your pocket.
Okay.
So you have to cover all of costs.
Okay.
Plus, if you have to go to Jamaica for meetings of the council, you have to bear those costs also.
Okay, so there hasn't been a real clarity as to what the role is, what is expected. The truth is, in the South, there's also, I think it's 13 states that the Southern representative also has. So the criteria for this role, which is an advisory role to the government, needs to be defined. That folks need to be aware of, as you said. Is it that the criteria, because of no knowledge of the role, did not appeal to others? Or is it that because of Hurricane Melissa, possibly we didn't have as much entries?
No, between the US, Canada, and UK, I think you had 71 people who put themselves forward.
Okay.
For these 7 positions.
Okay.
And so you'll be voting for these candidates. So the candidate who gets the most vote out of the region will be the person who is selected to be the council member.
Okay.
And as I said, it is an advisory role. It is not. It's not a representational role. It's an advisory role.
So it's a patriotic role of independent funding.
I'm sorry?
It's a patriotic role for someone who is advising the government at their own expense.
Right. So basically, you're an advisor to the government.
Okay.
And so the other thing that members of the community talked about
Mm-hmm.
is that they don't think that the government did enough to try and galvanize people around the registration process to get more people to register.
Okay.
The government, on the other hand, is saying, look, we're hands off, right? You guys have to do this. We don't want to be accused of trying to influence the situation in any way. And so you have a situation where the election is set up by the government,
Okay.
but the government is saying, I need to be hands off.
So let's just stop there for a minute, because if in fact the government benefits from the collaboration of information from these leaders, then what is to incentivize these people? Let's think about that for a minute. The cost of travel, the integration, the engagement, and all of that. If it's benefiting the government in Jamaica, then why wouldn't there be a budget to secure these participations?
Okay, you have to be extremely careful, right, about it, because you don't want to run afoul of the U.S. law.
Okay.
And so, in truth and in fact, you can't have an election for somebody in Jamaica, in the United States, that would be a representative of the community here.
Okay.
And that is why it has been stressed that it's an advisory situation.
Okay.
Right?
So from that diplomatic piece, let's stop. Is there a criteria? Are these folks U.S. citizens, or are they residents of the United States, legal residents, the applicants?
Well, so far, all the members of the council have been citizens,
Okay.
U.S. citizens, Jamaicans with U.S. citizenship.
All right.
Remember how this came about. Previously, it was known as the Jamaica Diaspora Advisory Board.
Okay.
That was how it was. That was the name of it before, right? And the members, and it was not 7. It was probably a little less.
Okay.
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 And the advisory board was what it is, advisor to the ministry.
Mm-hmm.
The government did a diaspora policy document that was passed by the Jamaican Parliament, and they changed the name from Diaspora Board to Council.
Okay. So let's talk. You've served in the Home Office in New York, and you've served on a UN space of observation and participation. Just on a real note, let's talk. How effective is this role in the United States?
You know, it's a question that has been asked time and time again. And the truth is, if you're looking for representation, if you're looking for somebody who is going to be out there to say, this is what I want the government to do to assist us Jamaicans in the region, that's not what you're going to get.
Okay.
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 And so there's this this dichotomy of what you want and what you can't get.
Okay.
And so that's where the situation diverse.
All right. So let us just to wrap up on that point, remind folks that there's an election ongoing. It's a virtual election process, and the closing date for election is when?
No, February 20.
February 20th. Okay. So
and they go to the website, connectmejamaica.com.
Okay.
To be able to vote, but you can only vote if you were registered to vote.
Okay. So that is said and done. So we're going to leave that there. I was just following up on a story I saw you had in the Gleaner today that was expressing that there was a low participation of registration and possibly turnout. So that's those. We want to wish all those who are in our hearing today the best, those who are candidates for this novel and requested support to our Jamaican government and our international representation as Jamaicans across the globe. Lester, I also saw in the news this week a very interesting story, and you having served in your capacity as, I remember, your stories of having toured with Michael Manley and the luxury or legacy of also serving the former Prime Minister, Eddie Seaga. There was a story this week that was showing just what it was. The Caribbean basin has become a primary interest for a lot of reasons, CARICOM, etc. And I just wanted you to give us a little example, or just to tell us what it was, having worked with these two people. A young man probably in his early teens, 20s, working with Michael Manley, a leader at the time, and then Eddie Seaga. What was it?
Karen, Caribbean leaders have different styles.
Yes.
Right? And they have their own how they approach things, right?
Yes.
Michael Manley was a firebrand.
Yes.
Somebody who was not afraid to take on the powers that be, whether it's the United States, whether it's Britain, wherever. He believed strongly in building coalition among developing countries, because he felt that by doing that, you're in a better position to leverage goods and services from developed countries, because now you're not dealing on a one-on-one basis, but you're dealing with a group of countries with similar interests. And that was his thought process.
Okay.
Mr. Seaga, on the other hand, believed more in the unilateral system, where he believed in he can build one-on-one relationships with government that will benefit Jamaica more. So they have the different styles in terms of how they approach things. But what was common to both of them was the fact that they strongly believe in the independence of the Caribbean region. And they believe very strongly that the Caribbean region should be and should remain a zone of peace. They believe very strongly that nothing should be done to fracture the region and force the region to choose sides. That's not where they were, and so they both very strongly believe in CARICOM, the unity of the Caribbean region.
Yes,
and so while CARICOM started out with the English-speaking countries that were ruled by Britain, they expanded to include other countries in the region.
So let's interject before we go on to our break. We're going to follow up on this piece of the CARICOM, the origin of it, and the participation of Jamaica and the leaders back then at the initial stage of CARICOM. As we're going in, folks who are in our viewing audience here on One Love Connect, Tempo TV, and across the Bloomberg and other affiliates, our guest today is none other than award-winning journalist Lester Hines, who is with us here. We're going into our first commercial, and we'll be right back to follow up on the Caribbean experience and his wide, verse knowledge of journalism within the Caribbean region. Thank you so much, Lester Hines. Our guests, please stay with us. We're going to our first commercial where the bills have to be paid. Thank you for joining us.
I used to watch BET, MTV, VH1, now I watch Tempo. Soca, Calypso, Reggae Dancehall. Don't stall, better get tuned in to the Tempo. Don't have cable, they got an app. Go to your app store, download that. Whether it's tourism, cuisine, or the social scenes, if it ain't Tempo, it's a rap. Who got the Caribbean views? Tempo. It's the latest in Caribbean news. Tempo. You tryna cook Caribbean food? Tempo. You know they got the music videos too. Tempo. Who got the Caribbean views? Tempo. It's the latest in Caribbean news. Tempo. You tryna cook Caribbean food? Tempo. You know they got the music videos too. Tempo.
Welcome back to the Voice of the Caribbean. We have with us today guest none other than world-renowned Jamaican journalist Lester Hines. Lester Hines is a novelist, long-time reporting, up-to-date journalist, one who's covered not just the diaspora's news reports on the Blina, of Radio Jamaica, IRA FM, you name it. He's covered all of journalism here in the United States as well, having served in our local U.S. Consul General's office in New York. And more importantly, he continues to bring reports in from across the diaspora. Lester, we were talking just now before the commercial about the origin of the Jamaican leaders, namely Michael Manley Edisiag at the time with CARICOM. And you were telling us that, it started out being an English-speaking alliance in the region, but then it went on to include the Americans. Give us a little more about that before we move into something I want to talk to you about.
Well, I mean, because they didn't believe that that the Caribbean encompasses only the English-speaking region, and so they brought in some countries more on an observer basis to then later on make them full CARICOM partners.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why the CARICOM region has widened the number of countries that are there. Widened because of their vision. They saw the Caribbean. You have to remember that it started out that the whole idea of CARICOM was for the free movement of people between the islands. Okay, to have one currency that was used throughout the countries of the islands.
Right.
There are lots of areas of the Chaguaramas Treaty that set up CARICOM, right? Mm-hmm. That have not been implemented. Mm-hmm. And countries are still very territorial. And mm-hmm. So, although there's a movement now towards a freer travel of people between the islands, and this is reflected in the fact that you have what is known as a CARICOM passport.
Right.
Although it says Jamaica on it,
right,
and it says Barbados on it. Right? The fact is that countries are still very territorial.
Right.
They still value their independence very highly, and so they still want to keep their own currency. They make their own laws, and it will take a while before a lot of the Treaty of Chaguaramas is fully implemented, and that's not. I don't see that happening for
some time to come.
Lester,
to me, it reminds me of the Schengen visas for most of some of those European countries that have open access to each other, traveling cross country. I think within the last 6 months, the Caribbean region, the third body, I've been talking about this for a very long time, has really become a focus point for so many reasons. The wealth of the southern states, Venezuela, Guyana, and we see what's happening in the basin now with U.S. interests. I'm not going to touch on that today. However, it has caused some distractions from our tourist sector, particularly Melissa did also revert some of the tourism highlights, or Country for One. Surviving Melissa still is open for tourism. But there was a whole lot of relocation given the fact that we had war vessels and seizures and all matter of stuff happening in the Caribbean area, right? So we had an interest of war, what appeared to be war-torn vessels. And then we had Melissa and the effects of that. Right now, Lester, I'm curious to know what your thoughts are on the recovery phase of Melissa.
Okay, all right. Let's look at Melissa. Melissa was a hurricane that Jamaica has never had to deal with in its history. They think it was a Category 5. It may have been stronger than that. the fact is that the recovery from Melissa is going to take a while, but the infrastructure of putting things back in place
Mm-hmm.
ahead of schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Almost all places that were affected have gotten back power. The internet service up and running, and a lot of structures have been identified for repairs and things like that. In terms of tourism, most of the hotels have reopened. There are some that are reopening later this month, some in March, and some a little later. But for the most part, by the end of March, at least 95% of the hotel rooms in Jamaica should be up and running.
It's fair to say, Lester, that Jamaica's recovery, unlike having seen and been through so many of them on the recovery side, the horrific worst hurricanes we've seen in 20 years, Jamaica's recovery has really been impeccably expeditious. You know, the bottom line is that what happened, fortunately for Jamaica, is that the capital cities were not impacted. The truth be told, it was the food belt and the rural areas, because this storm did not hit Kingston, our capital. And in reality, what has happened is, I think the industries hit the most was our agricultural industries.
Okay, and that's where the challenge lies, because you have to now literally restart the agricultural and livestock industries in Jamaica.
Absolutely.
And so that's going to take a while. Now, they say out of every bad comes good. And the good that could come out of the devastation to the agricultural belt in Jamaica is that it could now force Jamaica to look at streamlining agricultural production with a focus on export of agricultural products, because we have never really organized agriculture around export markets.
Interesting you said that.
It was more agriculture for domestic consumption, and whatever was left over could be exported.
Right.
Now you can now organize things. Like, for instance, you could put in mango groves, right? You could put in orange groves.
Right.
Jamaica has some of the best oranges, and Jamaica has the widest selection of mangoes in the Caribbean region.
So I'm hugging you from a distance, because I have been in dialogue. We will talk more about that on another show, but the reality is that the agricultural industry and the private sector and public and government policies really need to organize, to come together. The private sector in Jamaica, manufacturers, agricultural growers, farmers, those who are literally there already on the ground, really need to have a coalition of making this just what you just suggested. It's export, it's innovation, it's resilience, it's partnership, it's the financing of these smaller banks, international banks, non-profit entities. The bottom line is, as you said, Lester, out of this horrific, earth-changing disaster has created a real opportunity for collaboration with private and public sector to get this thing done properly.
There's also a real opportunity to look at spin-off from agro industry. You know, I remember growing up in Jamaica, and I don't remember how many people remember Cadbury chocolate in Jamaica.
No comment. Not tell me.
Cadbury chocolate was manufactured in Jamaica, because in St. Mary, the Cadbury.
Did that come from
was in St. Mary?
Was that before Highgate, Lester?
Yeah,
There are Highgate chocolate too.
yeah, but Cadbury, right?
Okay.
Cadbury chocolate was made from the best chocolate in the world,
Okay.
Jamaican grown chocolate,
Okay.
right? Okay. I remember as a youngster, um, Schweppes ginger ale
Okay.
used to advertise. They had this guy with a white hair and what have you, and he was named Commander Edward Whitehead,
Yes, sir.
who advertised Schweppes ginger ale.
Yes.
And the tagline for Schweppes ginger ale was made from the best ginger on earth,
Wow.
Jamaican ginger.
Wow.
Right? Okay, so when you look at coffee, Blue Mountain coffee, you look at the cocoa,
Mm-hmm.
you look at the pimento.
Yes.
When you look at and a lot of people don't know that you make oil from pimento. Okay?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So you look at pimento, you look at chocolate, you look at coffee, you look at mangoes, you look at there's a unique fruit to Jamaica known as the Ortonique,
Yes.
which is a cross between orange and tangerine. Okay, which is one of the sweetest orange type thing that you can get to eat.
Right.
So if you go back to Ortonique Grove, mango groves, chocolate, you're looking now at export of agriculture in areas that you had not previously. Because you have to remember that our agricultural export centered mostly around bananas, right? And sugar cane sugar, right?
And banana at one
That
point.
was basically because those were the large export agricultural crops, right? But here we have, I mean, Jamaica's pepper, Scotch bonnet pepper.
Yes.
You don't find, we have a pepper in Jamaica known as bird pepper.
Yes.
It's the hottest pepper you can find anywhere, right?
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Okay.
And I mean, we have not really developed the pepper industry.
So let's
where we can not only export the pepper itself, but spin off in terms of other
byproduct
industry.
So Lester, listen, because here's what you're saying: innovation is going to come from this catastrophe, right? But with innovation comes the interest. It is going to require investments. It is going to require an injection of resources, either from and as you said before, it's going to have to come from the private sector, investments, and through governmental policies. So Lester, here's where I'm at. I believe that the conversation of what just your thoughts, just by being reminiscent of what you've gone through in life before, what you've experienced, real authentic Jamaican market. The truth is, Jamaica has just created history in itself of having revitalized a tourism sector within 2 months of a devastating Category 6 almost hurricane. We're at a place where we're looking at agricultural revitalization, we're looking at tourism, we're looking at our health system, our education system, which are all hit. And so here we are today, not even 3 months post Hurricane Melissa, having this conversation where our tourism sector is open. This month, February, happens to be Reggae Month. And the theme of Reggae Month, I think Jara has, is about resilience and the Minister of Culture. Resilience is actually the mainstream name and theme of Reggae Month this year in Jamaica. Lester, I know you're a reggae guy too, but you listen to the old time reggae music, right? The Bob Marleys and the
I'm not a dancehall fan.
Well, you better put it out. Dancehall has not literally made it on an here I am going to put my foot in my mouth. But dancehall music, really, for example, they were thinking the Cartel was going to get the Grammy this year because of popularity. But reggae music dancehall has not advanced past reggae music.
Okay.
In acceptance.
But Karen, the reality of the situation, right, is that Jamaican culture is not just reggae music. You can talk about, yes, reggae music has taken the world by storm, and it has been there, and you cannot walk into any country without hearing reggae music being played and what have you. And the most popular Jamaican on the face of the earth is Bob Marley. I mean, you can't remove that, right? And Bob Marley grew in legend after his death rather than before, right?
Absolutely.
But we do have other cultural outtake in Jamaica that we are not exporting to the world.
Such as?
And one of the things that interests me, I found recently, was at the Grammy, all the hullabaloo was made about the reggae Grammy winner. But what slipped through the crack was that there was a Jamaican who won Grammy for classical composing music.
Okay.
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 All right.
Okay.
So you look at Jamaican culture, and one wants to think that it's one dimensional when it's not. Right?
It is absolutely not.
You look at NDTC, National Dance Theatre Company, right? NDTC rivaled Alvin Ailey.
Yes.
At the height of NDTC.
Yeah, you're right.
And the bottom line is, I am hoping that something like NDTC will not be allowed to die, but will rather be revitalized and be able to tour the world and continue to tour the world and give to the let the world see that there's more to Jamaican culture.
So you're in a position where, just as you're trying to remind us of the cultural merits that Jamaicans have, you have an opportunity to keep reminding us, because that's one of the things I believe us folks, we need to make the other generation aware of what we're coming from. The cultural experiences or legacies need to be in place. And more importantly, we need to evolve and to garner more. You're talking about even the fact that agriculture needs to be modernized and or not, but to be revitalized, right? So we know that we're going to see changes. We're going to see reggae music expand. We're going to see our arts and our theater expand. We're going to see our agriculture take a different route, and one that is going to be even more so appealing to young people in the agricultural industry. We also see where Leicester, from political space, the lessons learned of our Caribbean leaders of sovereignty, patriotism, unity, that it too will continue to grow, and that there won't be a separation of states within our region.
One of the things that I have tried to do with my writing as a journalist is to highlight the achievements of Jamaicans. Primarily because I'm Jamaican and I write for a Jamaican audience more so than, and I try to highlight their achievements, what they've achieved, how they've, the positions they've gotten themselves in. To date, I think I'm still, I think this only newspaper that has interviewed the new New York City school chancellor.
Yeah. Yes.
Because that's groundbreaking.
Yes,
in terms of his being the leader of the biggest school district in the U.S.
Yeah.
So I try to highlight the achievements of Jamaicans in terms of it, not to the exclusion of other areas, but because I do believe that when we highlight what are being achieved by Jamaicans and other Caribbeans, we are setting the stage for our youngsters,
Yes.
whether they're in Jamaica, in the Caribbean region, or they're here in the
Yes.
U.S., to point out to them that, look, you can do it. Trust me, you can do it, right? And it's in your hands to do it, right?
Absolutely.
And so, to me, I am trying to hold these people up as heroes
Yes.
to the next generation, for them to say, okay, fine, I want to emulate these people. Now, I have my own disappointment in terms of when I look around the political arena in the United States, right? On a local level, we have, in Southern Florida, we have a couple of mayors, we have a couple of commissioners, and school board members. When I look in New York and those areas, we have probably one or two members sitting on the New York City Council. We may have one or two members in the New York State Assembly. We don't have any Caribbean-born person in Congress.
Well, whose fault was that? I tried.
But the bottom line is that what I'm seeing is kind of a withdrawal by Jamaicans and Caribbean nationals from the political arena. And it saddens me because I believe that you can only make a difference if you're seated at the table. And I believe that that to be seated at the table, you have to get yourself elected to Congress, to the Senate, to the state assembly, the state Senate, to local government bodies, and all of that.
Well, there is
I think part of the reason for this dearth of candidates.
Let's hear that.
Is because we don't have viable organizations that will put up people to run for elected office and fund them.
Yes.
Right? And if you don't fund them, they're not going to win.
So let me pick up on that. There are two things that happen in this regard. Two of which you've touched is that there has to be a recruitment and there has to be the funding element to support these candidates. But until the Caribbean electorate is seen as valuable to the point where they're double digits in the electorate, is where and when they will get the support of the national donors, right? But here is where we are. There's also a stigma or a cultural lack of interest because of what politics is, where many of the Caribbean people come from. They just don't do it because they just don't want to be a part of what they see as a corrupt way of life, right? In reality, what is happening is, as you said before, it's not about being at the table. It's about representing the represented, being aware of the representation of people who are like you. I think somebody needs to be there to represent who you are. You're right. South Florida, Broward County particularly, has most of the islanders, Jamaicans particularly, elected to municipal election roles, right? I know Wayne Massam tried to run for president. He put himself on the ticket at once. We currently right now have a few candidates who are running for Congress in the state, one in the state of Florida, and others have. As you know before, many of us have tried. And for those reasons, we have gotten that close, but not all the way there, right? So I'm here today to say to you as well, Lester, don't be discouraged. I think the opportunity is presenting itself for a few others again. I think it will happen. And I think at some point we are going to have the representation needed. We have our Congresswoman Yvette Clarke, who happens to chair the Black Caucus nationally as well. As you said, she's not US born. Her mother Una Clark was serving on the New York Council as well. But there is work to be done, and we are looking forward to having a Jamaican-born congressional representative in the United States pretty soon, God's willing. Lester, before you go, before we wrap up on this show today, I want to thank you personally for doing what you've taken on as a life task of representing and identifying people in the country leading in their own roles, particularly in the Jamaican diaspora. But you, as you said before, you look out for people from the Caribbean basin. Thank you for your years of service, for your sense of honesty. And it's not often that you find people in journalism who hold their line and are true to their words. And I want to take it on behalf of this network, One Love Connect, Tempo TV, or Bloomberg affiliates, and our brothers out of, where we are there in Callaloo Network. Thank you for all the viewers watching our show today. Lester Hines, thank you for your years of dedication, and we will continue to recognize you as an award-winning journalist. And today, before we leave, we just want to celebrate you, Lester.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. What is not really known is that I also worked for the New York Daily News as a reporter.
Yes, you did.
And when I left the New York Daily News, I wrote for the as a freelance writer for the New York Post and New York Newsday. So I have seen. I've worked for Wire Service, I've worked for daily newspapers, I've worked for radio stations.
Right.
I used to be a frequent guest on television, but I have stepped back. I want other people to step up and do it and be there and to be visible. And I try very hard to be a source
right.
to people who want to get to the level I've reached in my career.
Lester, thank you for passing the baton to those who you see. I know you've been a mentor to a few as well. And this is why we celebrate you today. We're going to be inviting you back as the program continues. As you know, we've changed the format from the Voice of Florida to the Voice of the Caribbean, particularly to include everyone in the region as we move forward in this time of advancement, unity, and just building our Commonwealth and our CARICOM group of islands and just our community. Before we wrap up, Lester, on Sunday we had the Super Bowl, and it was such a unique thing to see all of the Americana flags with Bad Boy Bunny showing all the flags out of the key and piece and just
why are you spoiling the man's name? It's Bad Bunny, not Bad Boy Bunny.
It was a bad boy effect because he's getting all the beat up, whatever it was. But it was beautiful. I think just seeing the flags to me.
I think the message he was sending is that the world seemed to think that the U.S. is America. And he was saying, no, we're all part of the Americas.
Correct.
All these countries are a part of the Americas.
The Americas. That is what I left with as well. That, before anything else, America, there was the Americans. It is Americana. So it is what it is. Listen, Lester, thank you. Thank you for being here with us. Thank you for joining us here on the Voice of the Caribbean. And we'll see you next week. This has been a great show.
Welcome to our TV network, your ultimate destination for all things exciting and essential. From mouth-watering food to the latest in fashion, health, education, music, movies, and news, plus thrilling sports and breathtaking travel. Our TV network brings it all to you. Tune in today and experience the best of every world. All in one place, RTV.network.